the truth behind popular places. Think you've got your travel bucket list all figured out? Well, hold up. Today we're diving into the world of overrated travel destinations. Those places everyone says you have to visit, but are they really worth the hype? Spoiler alert, maybe not. Now don't get me wrong, these spots look amazing in photos. But once you're there, elbow to elbow with 1,000 other tourists, paying triple the price for a mediocre experience, you might wish you had picked somewhere else. And stick around until the end, because I'll reveal one location that's often praised as a must-see, but the reality might surprise you. Any guesses? You'll find out soon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bali? Overrated? Well, hear me out. While Bali was once a tranquil paradise, today it's a victim of its own success. Beaches packed with tourists, overpriced resorts, and traffic that can make even the most patient traveler lose their cool. What's more, many first-time visitors expect unspoiled beaches and quiet retreats, but find themselves surrounded by Instagrammers fighting for that perfect sunset shot at Tanah Lot Temple. Sure, Bali has its gems, but you have to go far off the beaten path to experience the tranquility it's famous for. Hollywood. The glitz, the glam, the stars. But one thing you don't hear often? The Hollywood Walk of Fame can be underwhelming. It's a stretch of sidewalk, plain and simple, not the magical stroll through movie history you might imagine. Most people arrive thinking they'll spot a celebrity or soak in the grandeur of Hollywood. But what they get instead are dirty streets, pushy vendors, and way too many costume characters trying to charge for photos. And let's not forget the crowds. Good luck snapping a picture without 50 people walking into your shot. Santorini, Greece. I know. It's the Santorini you've seen on every travel brochure, whitewashed buildings, blue domes, and sunsets that take your breath away. But the reality? The island is incredibly crowded, especially during peak season. You'll be jostling for space to get that iconic sunset photo in Oya, which, by the way, is often overrun with cruise ship passengers and day trippers. Prices for everything, from accommodation to food, are sky high. And after spending a few days battling the crowds, you might find yourself longing for a more relaxed Greek island experience. Spoiler alert, Greece has over 6,000 islands. There are better, less crowded options. The Mona Lisa, France. Everyone who visits Paris wants to see the Mona Lisa. But when you finally step into the Louvre and fight your way through the crowd, what awaits you is a tiny painting hidden behind thick glass and surrounded by a sea of tourists with their phones in the air. You'll spend more time trying to get a glimpse of it than actually appreciating the art itself. The painting is undeniably famous, but for many, the experience of seeing it in person is anticlimactic. Want a more fulfilling visit? Skip the Mona Lisa and explore the Louvre's thousands of other masterpieces that get far less attention. Dubai, UAE. Dubai markets itself as a glamorous playground for the rich and famous, and while it certainly has its share of luxury, for the average traveler, it can feel manufactured. Everything is big, bold, and shiny, but it's all built for spectacle rather than substance. The city's most famous attractions, the Burj Khalifa, the Palm Jumeirah, and the indoor ski slopes, are impressive to look at, but they can also feel artificial. It's a city designed for flash, but if you're craving real culture or history, you'll have to dig a lot deeper than what's on the surface. Times Square, USA. There's no denying Times Square is iconic, but after about 10 minutes of standing there, looking up at the neon lights and billboards, you'll probably start wondering why you're still there. It's crowded, loud, and chaotic. Everything you don't want after a long day of sightseeing. Despite what movies might make you believe, Times Square isn't the cultural heartbeat of New York. In fact, most New Yorkers avoid it like the plague. The flashing lights and giant screens are exciting for a moment, but the novelty wears off fast. Plus, the restaurants and shops are overpriced tourist traps. Want the real New York experience? Head to the quieter, more authentic neighborhoods like the West Village or Brooklyn. Cancun, Mexico. Cancun is often marketed as the ultimate Mexican beach destination. But let's face it, Cancun is mostly about mega resorts, all-you-can-eat buffets, and throngs of spring breakers. The beaches are undeniably beautiful, but they can be overcrowded and over-commercialized. If you're after a more authentic Mexican experience with fewer tourists, consider exploring nearby towns like Tulum or Playa del Carmen. These places offer the same turquoise waters, but with a more laid-back, less commercialized vibe. Venice, Italy. Ah, Venice. The city of canals, gondolas, and romantic walks along the water. But if you visit during the summer, what you're more likely to experience is swarms of tourists, overpriced cafes, and a city that can feel more like a theme park than a historic marvel. Sure, Venice is beautiful, but it's also incredibly crowded, especially during peak season. Narrow streets and bridges can become almost impassable, and finding a quiet spot to enjoy the city's magic can be tough. Also, the constant foot traffic is causing damage to this fragile city. If Venice is on your list, consider visiting in the off-season to avoid the crowds. Machu Picchu, Peru. Yes, Machu Picchu is one of the world's greatest archaeological treasures, but the experience of getting there can be exhausting, and not in the good, adventurous way. For starters, tickets to the site are expensive and tightly regulated. You'll also need to make multiple bookings just to get there. Train, bus, and entrance tickets. Once you arrive, expect huge crowds, which can take away from the awe-inspiring experience you might have imagined. Some visitors leave feeling like they spent more time in transit and queuing than actually soaking in the ancient wonder of the site. If you're set on visiting, try to go in the off-season or consider other, less crowded Incan ruins that offer just as much history without the hassle. The Pyramids of Giza, Egypt. Don't get me wrong, the Pyramids of Giza are one of the most iconic landmarks on Earth, and seeing them in person is unforgettable. But here's the reality. Once you get there, you might find that the area around the pyramids is crowded with pushy vendors, litter, and aggressive touts. The pyramids themselves are awe-inspiring, but the experience can be diminished by the constant hustle of people trying to sell you camel rides, trinkets, or photo ops. For a more peaceful experience, consider visiting at sunrise or sunset when the crowds thin out and the desert takes on a mystical glow. And now, for that surprise I promised you earlier. There's one more spot that gets all the love, but most people end up disappointed. Want to know what it is? Well, that's a secret for our next video. So make sure you're subscribed to Map Lust for all the travel insights and untold stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes skipping the hype can lead to your most unforgettable adventure yet. See you in the next one.